I'm grateful to US-India Political Action Committee, FIIPS, and American Foreign Policy Council for organizing this event and giving me an opportunity to interact with you. Ladies and gentlemen, before I start, I've got two small questions to pose. Can you hear me now? I think I was talking without this thing here. That pertains to the subject which I have been asked to speak on. Moderate and balanced Afghanistan, imperative for regional security. Is there anyone in this room who subscribes to the idea that a violent, turbulent, extremist, unstable Afghanistan is good for the region? I think no one accepts. So I think we have got consensus on that, as far as the subject is concerned. But there is another question. Does any one of you feel that while it may be good for the region, but probably it has got no implications for the rest of the world? That is, Afghanistan poses a turmoil, and Afghanistan in turmoil, Afghanistan that is violent, Afghanistan that is supporting extremism. It constitutes only a threat to the region and not to the countries beyond the region, not the United States, not the West, not the rest of the world. You don't subscribe to that view. So I think the subject is not actually whether moderate and balanced Afghanistan is required or not. It is required. And let me tell you, it is not only required for the region, it is required for the entire world. Then what are we really talking about? What is this subject about? The problem is this. What we really are talking about is that we all have a certain wish, a certain assessment. And we think that things will happen, or won't they happen that way? There's a question mark. There are optimists, and then there are pessimists. Well, I'm an optimist, not because they're always right, but because they keep the hopes alive till they are proved wrong. That is good enough a time to live. Why is there a gap between the optimists, the pessimists, and the people who are doubting? It is basically because there is a sharp variance in critical assumptions on which we are working. I wish that there is a stable Pakistan. It's a moderate Pakistan. And all those who wish and anticipate and are planning and working on that, like our chairman for the session, Mr. Jav Smith, consciously or subconsciously, they're working on 4 assumptions. Their first assumption is that Afghanistan, which ushered into a democratic process, following the Loya Zirga, was able to have a constitution and then an elected president. Probably there will be an automatic transition to this democratic process. It has stabilized itself. And there will be transition of power in which different ethnicities, different groups, whatever their other beliefs may be, will fall in line. And there will be the transference of power, there will be elections which will be peaceful. And it will be in 2014. This is one assumption. If this assumption is not true, then we are talking the opposite of it. It's something which is quite a different one, which is a civil war situation, a bloodshed, and then eventually, in whose hand the reign of power will come, in that this thing of violence is unpredictable. So that is the first assumption. The second is that Taliban will change. It is assumed that the people who have worked on certain script for a long time, they will give it up. The path of violence, the extremism, the faith in jihadi ideology, and then come, either join the political process or will try to become an influential ideological group which will influence the political life of Afghanistan, even if they do not directly participate in the election. That is the second opposition. Now, how will it come? There can be this thing. Some people think, well, we can talk it out to them. Something we can ideologically, this thing. Some other thing we can buy them out. Everybody has been trying in their own way. The Pakistan has been trying. United States have been trying. Even the British have been trying to do it independently and then collectively. I think when a section was even in touch with the Afghan administration, and they were also trying to talk to certain factions. Nobody knows which section is talking to whom and is talking what. But this is an assumption. If this assumption is not true, then we are back in 2001. Correction. We are back in the situation worse than 2001. I'll come to that later. There is a third assumption that 325,000 Afghan National Army and the police will deliver. It will hold together. It has been equipped. It has been trained. It has got officers who are sufficiently motivated. And it is felt that irrespective of what happens at the political level in Afghanistan, the strong military and the police will remain a disciplined force, upholding the constitution and the democratic values of the Afghan state. This is an assumption. In last 12 months, I have met at least 15 to 20 top Pakistani security officials with the rank of Lieutenant General and above in different places and others. Not one of them has subscribed to this view that this army will be able to hold back, irrespective of the fact what is their weapons, what is their training level, what is this thing. They say there is a mismatch between the officers level and the cadres, and once the ethnic loyalties come up, once there's the transition of power, and again these things, this will get probably, to create a national army is a time-consuming process. It does not happen overnight. But I don't believe them, as I have never believed many Pakistanis. I don't believe them. But this is a question mark. This is a question mark. That if it does not remain what it, let me tell you one thing. Najibullah's army was much better trained, was much better this thing, and it could not hold on. But I think a lot of there are positive things, and the United States has done a lot, given a lot of these things. But then I think little short of what should have been done. I think it was brought out by our deputy ambassador, the Afghan ambassador in Delhi. It doesn't have, and I think some others also made the point, the logistics, the air defense, the services and maintenance of the equipment, artillery, air defense powers, all these things, there are big gaps. And those gaps are there not because the Afghan government did not want to fill these gaps. These gaps are there not because the Americans did not want to do it. It is not that the Afghan army did not want to do it. It is because of the Bonn Conference and thereafter. The Pakistanis never wanted an Afghan National Army to be equipped and to develop the muscle that it could give resistance to any of the things or any of the designs that they may have in that area. Their wish was accommodated. So that is another thing. But the another one is that Pakistan will change. There is another assumption. That is, Pakistan will take and assume a role of a very responsible state. No duplicity, no double talk, will commit itself to fight against terror, will be a very benevolent participant in the Afghan reintegration, reconciliation process, development process, and will do everything possible. And I think all that, the right type of noises which are coming from Pakistan, gives somebody a lot of hope. Friends, I'm not a scientist, but I'm a great admirer of Einstein. For one thing that he defined, insanity is. Insanity, he said, is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking that next time the results will be different. You do the same thing once and you get a certain thing. You put your hand on the burner and it burns. Put the second time it burns. You think third time maybe the stove has changed its mind and you still do it. That is what he said was insanity. I don't think that he had ever Pakistan in mind or anybody else in mind. But the fact remains, that is unless the Pakistan proves by its conduct. Pakistan walks the way and says. Probably there is every reason. The onus of proving it lies on Pakistan. Other countries to modulate their policies, responses, ideas on the basis of the assurances. Probably could be a good policy with the countries who have no such a grand track record of such a long time of going to the extremes, which is totally unacceptable in any form of international relations. I don't want to go into that. It's not a question of history. But my point is that this is an assumption. May still come true. Now, my grievance is not about whether the assumption will come true or not. I'm no diplomat, I'm no intellectual. I'm a security man, plain and simple. We make assumptions, and we work on that. We hope for the best and try for the worst. If it doesn't come true, we will face it and fight it. That is not the problem. I have got a problem on some other count. That is, you do everything to see that these assumptions don't come true. In all the four of it, let us see what all has been happening after the surge, or before, after the point that we talked about. We first talked about the withdrawal, then took the initiative of surge. I do not know. We couldn't understand it. I could not understand. Because if surge is supposed to have a deterrent effect or a punitive effect, if you have already announced that you are going to withdraw in 2014, it won't have that effect. You only have to bide the time. But from that time onwards, whether we are talking now of zero option, now we are talking about the new things that is, a lot of new, this thing that security arrangements, now I think the zero option has been given up. The security arrangement has been accepted with the chief of staff who was there in Kabul, I think, day for yesterday. Now there's this thing of the resolute support is the new operation, resolute support that is to follow. Now that it has been accepted that, well, Karzai is going to cooperate and, well, there will be not a zero option, but there will be, now they'll be talking by October, they'll be finalizing it. There is a lot of things are happening. But are these things happening by which we are trying to make the assumption on the basis of which we are hoping that the process will succeed? Are we reinforcing them or are we going against them? Now take one by one. We talk about strengthening the democratic process. By undermining Karzai's position and allowing in Doha talks with those people who are claiming themselves to be the Emirate of Afghanistan, seriously undermines the democratic credentials of the government that has come through a legitimate process of legitimate electoral process. Let us not talk about personalities. Let us talk about processes. Processes are important. Karzai might have failed. But if the democratic process is undermined, then the transition of power, these are the people whom you have got to fight again through a democratic process. If you delegitimize it, if the very people who installed it, who are instrumental in building it up, probably will be quite, the very purpose will be negated by that. While we had been talking about the assumption that security forces must be strengthened, how much has been the denial about the security forces? If they do not want to go to Afghanistan, to Pakistan for training, you would like them to go to Pakistan for training. You would like to put artificial restrictions on them that if you go to India, probably the sensitivities of Pakistan would be adversely hurt, and therefore that becomes unacceptable. If they want a certain type of weapons and arms, you think that a vetting by Pakistan is necessary. The very country which is interested in seeing and ensuring that Afghanistan does not stabilize